Hi folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast, Season 14, Episode 2. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we are once again, getting into the meat now of Season 14, which I'm calling the New Accumulators Season. Talking to those who are starting and thinking about starting building wealth for their future. Building wealth is the sexy part of personal finance, right? It's where you get to invest, take risks, watch your money grow, but there's a vital step to take first, which will make sure that your wealth can't just be swept away in a heartbeat, thanks to an unforeseen event. We need to talk first about life protection. That's what we're going to be talking about today. After we've done that, I'll read a review that had been left this week, announce what we're talking about next time, usual stuff. But before all that, remember, this podcast continues to be brought to you by my friends at 7 Investment Management. They've been helping me out here since the spring of 2011. Really grateful to them for doing so. Please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk. Don't forget the new Meaningful Money branded self-investment platform as well. That's by 7im. meaningfulmoney.tv/podcast invest is the place to go to find out more about that. Really exciting development. Okay, here we go. In my book, the aptly named Meaningful Money Handbook, I recount the Bible story of the wise man who built his house on the rock. When the storm came and the waters rose, the house stood firm because of its solid foundation. By contrast, the foolish man built his house on the sand, and when the storm came, the rains came down, and the floodwaters rose, things ended pretty badly because the foundation just wasn't solid enough to withstand disaster. Now, when I distilled the essence, really, of personal finance down to just 3 steps, build wealth, insure against it, rubbish. Spend less than you earn, insure against disaster, and build wealth. The second step is to insure against disaster. And it's so important that an entire section of the book was dedicated to it. So I want to get into this now from the perspective of a new accumulator, someone looking ahead to start building wealth for their future, somebody just like you. Okay, so that's where we're going today. A little bit of a longer one than last week, I think. Quite a lot to cover, but I'm sure it'll be worth it. A lot to pack into one episode, really. Notes and links, though, are all at the show notes, so you don't need to write any of this stuff down. And there might be a few links as we go through, but you only really need to remember one, and you'll get this at the beginning of every show, okay? meaningfulmoney.tv/NA2. That's NA for New Accumulators, Episode 2. meaningfulmoney.tv/NA2. Let's have a look at what you need to know first. Okay, we need to understand about life insurance. We need to just talk about the 3 main insurances, the 3 main life events that you need to protect against. And I've dealt with this stuff in great length in previous episodes. I talked about life insurance in most recently with my conversation with Tom Bakery, actually, just a few weeks ago in session 314. A really early session, number 7, single digits. That also covered it off pretty well. But so I don't want to sort of take ages going over it here, but I want to get to the sort of practical stuff that you can do, all right? What kind of insurances you might need, things like that. So what follows is something of a summary version, okay? So here goes. Life insurance pays out if you die. Thank you very much. I'll see you next week. No, not really. Life insurance pays out if you die. You take out a policy. You pay for it every month. And if you die within the policy term, it will pay out whatever sum of money you've taken out the policy for. The term of the policy can either be fixed, right, between 2 dates, start and end date of the policy, or it can be for the rest of your life, helpfully called whole of life insurance. The sum of money, which is called a sum assured or sum insured, that can be level. So whenever you die in the term of the plan, it'll pay out that amount. It can be decreasing, so it goes down the longer you survive. Why might you do that? Well, maybe to coincide with a mortgage balance reducing. Or it can be paid out in the form of a tax-free income called family income benefit. Really like those policies. The whole point, of course, is to make sure that your financial responsibilities are met if you're dead, right? Responsibilities such as paying off your mortgage, any other debt, looking after your partner, kids if you've got them. It's to make sure that your responsibilities are still met, even if you're no longer around to meet them. So what has that got to do with building wealth? Well, if you're dead, you're not going to be building anything, right? But as you might expect, it's more to do with making sure that your plans for your dependents can continue, at least in some form. So if you don't have any dependents, then arguably life insurance is a little bit less important than what is coming next. I'm going to come back to tying it all together a little bit later on. So what's coming next? I'm going to talk a little bit about income protection. So we've dealt with life protection, life insurance. This is income protection insurance. This is a product which is much better named than it used to be. It used to be called permanent health insurance, which doesn't mean anything. PHI, permanent health, doesn't mean anything, but I digress. Income protection pays out if you cannot work, simply, right? It pays you out a regular tax-free income, excuse me, until either you return to work or the end of the policy, whichever comes first. You can choose how long the policy waits before paying out. That's called the deferred period, so that you can tie in with benefits available from work if you've got them, or if you've got an emergency fund put aside, you can tie in your income protection policy benefits to when that emergency fund might have been exhausted, right? Maybe that'll tide you over for a few weeks or months, and then you can have benefits kick in after that. You can choose to have the benefits, the income that's paid to you from the policy, and the premium rise by inflation each year. That's called indexed benefits. If you're in a risky occupation, it'll cost you more, right? Also, the definition of being unable to work differs. You might just think, well, if I can't work, then surely that means I can't work. But that can differ depending on what work you actually do as well. If you're a desk jockey like me, worst thing that's likely to happen is that you staple your hand to the desk, then that's pretty low risk, right? And so you'll get the most generous definition of being unable to work. If you're in a very manual occupation or in a high-risk occupation, then the definition of being unable to work might be different. You can't insure an income you don't have, nor can you insure 100% of your income. So if you're only earning 20 grand, you can't take out an income protection policy for 50 grand, right? And if you're earning 20 grand, you actually can't take out an income protection for 20 grand. You can't insure 100% of your income. Usually it's a maximum of about 65 to 70% of your gross income, though. But because income protection benefits are paid tax-free, you'll likely find that that adds up to somewhere north of about 90% of your net pre-illness income. All right, so it's not quite all, but it's nearly all. Your ability to earn an income is by far your biggest asset, so you need to protect it. Your number one tool for building wealth into the future is your income, right? It's just obvious. Where else are you going to get the money from? So you need to make sure that if you can't earn an income, there is still some money coming in, and income protection insurance is designed to do exactly that. The third main life event and the insurance that covers it is called critical illness, or CI cover. And what this does is it pays out a lump sum if you are diagnosed with one of a list of serious conditions and then you survive, right? So you have to survive in order for it to pay out. Usually you only have to survive for about 14 days, but you know. So there's like a standard list of like a minimum standard list of definitions. Those are the main things like heart attack, cancer, stroke, multiple sclerosis, motor neuron disease, that sort of thing. And then each insurer kind of adds to that and has its own list of conditions and the strict definitions of those conditions that is covered by the policy. So you need to understand that sort of stuff, right? And critical illness cover can be expensive, but it's valuable in the right circumstances. Usually it comes last in terms of priority, but it does depend on your situation a little bit. More on that shortly. Okay. A couple of other key things to mention in the in what you need to know before we get into the what you need to do stuff. You can self-insure to an extent with good financial discipline. What do I mean by self-insure? Well, if you make sure you've got good habits in place, then the need for insurance is arguably reduced slightly. So, for instance, if you've got an emergency fund of 6 months worth of expenses, then you wouldn't need income protection to pay out after just 1 month of being sick. You've got an emergency fund. You have self-insured for that first 6 months. If your expenses, your monthly budget, your monthly outgoings is actually only 60 or 70% of your income because you're keeping your spending under control, then again, you won't need quite so much insurance, right, to cover it if you can't work for whatever reason. You see? Good financial discipline has more benefits than just helping you save for the future. It can actually reduce the need for insurance. So we need to make sure we have an emergency fund. I've dealt with that in a great deal of detail in the past. That's usually between 3 and 6 months of minimum standard outgoings, really. So make sure your mortgage is paid or your bills are paid. You can run a car or whatever. That's your minimum. You need 3 months at least of that, really, as an emergency fund. Last thing you need to know is that work benefits are often available and can be very valuable. If you work for somebody else, i.e. you're an employee rather than self-employed or have your own business, you might well have some level of life insurance, sick benefit available through your employer, and you need to know what they are, right? So, not least so you can work around them. There is no point taking out too much insurance. If you've got good benefits at work, you may not need any personal insurance at all. But you need to understand, of course, that if you leave that employer, then you will lose those benefits. And your new employer, wherever you go to next, might not have them. You set up your own business, you won't have them. So there is an argument, I think, for having your own standalone protection program in place that you can take with you wherever you work. And then your work benefits, if there are any, will be kind of the icing on top of that cake. All right, so work benefits can be valuable, but obviously they are dependent on you staying at that employer. Quite an important thing to remember. So we've covered briefly the main kinds of insurance: life insurance, income protection, critical illness. We know that they are an addition, essentially, to good financial discipline and work benefits that might be available. Hopefully, you can understand the sort of peace of mind that comes from knowing that if life throws you the mother of all curveballs, you've got some kind of a plan for dealing with it. This is really all about making sure that your plans, either for yourself or for your dependents after you've gone, can continue no matter what. This is what I mean by it being the foundation for new accumulators. You've got to build on top of this, because if any of these things happens to you, it can completely derail your wealth building efforts. Whereas with a good protection program in place, that doesn't necessarily need to happen. Obviously, if you're gone, your future wealth building doesn't really matter anymore. But for those left behind, it would, and you can provide for them in some way. All right? So this is important, folks. It's so easy to skip this stuff when we're talking about the sexy stuff like investing and risk and all that sort of stuff for building wealth for the future. But don't skip this. It's really important. So in that vein, let's look now at what we need to do. Okay. The first thing we need to do is to prioritize protection differently. Oops, banged the microphone. Prioritize it differently according to your life stage. Every situation is different, of course. For as many people as there are listening to this, there's at least that many individual needs and situations. So it's going to be impossible to be too definitive. But I've made a calculator which is hopefully going to help you. All right, it's a simple little Excel sheet. You can open it in Google Docs or whatever, and you just put in a little bit about your current situation, and it'll give you a steer as to what insurances you might need. Okay, so the easiest way, I think, to think about what insurances you need and in what order of priority is to deal with it by life stage. So here's a very quick and dirty summary of how you should prioritize. Right, we'll get to amounts in a minute. So if you are young, free and single, or old, free and single, in other words, if it's just you and you have nobody dependent on you, then arguably you don't need life insurance unless you have some debts. Now, if your only debt is a mortgage, then the house can just be sold to pay off the mortgage. Any excess will be distributed as per the terms of your will. But you might want to have the mortgage paid off so you can leave the house to somebody who's important to you. Maybe as an income-producing investment for them or whatever. But generally, life insurance is less of a priority than income protection, you should definitely put that first. So prioritize income protection first, then life cover to pay off any debts if you want to, and then critical illness cover. If you are still around, having suffered a pretty nasty diagnosis like cancer and gone through treatment or whatever to get through that, that might take a while, and critical illness might be a real benefit for you, at least in part, okay? But income protection, by far, the biggest reason, the biggest priority that you need to consider. Now, if you're in a committed relationship, so you are in a partnership of some kind, but have no other dependents or no kids to speak of, then you should both have life insurance to cover any joint debts, plus maybe an additional sum to provide a cushion for the remaining partner while they get used to life without you. If you are the primary earner, then your death could mean considerable financial hardship. Then you need to consider some family income benefit insurance, life insurance that pays out a regular income, so that it will replace your income to a point after you've gone to your surviving partner. Next priority is income protection for both of you, ideally, certainly for the main earner, and then critical illness after that. So life insurance, both to cover any joint debts and to leave either a lump sum or a regular income for those left behind. Income protection, next priority, then critical illness, in that order. Okay? You can either cover the full amount of your debt for critical illness. That's certainly ideal, but that can be quite expensive. So you could compromise and say, I'm going to take critical illness cover out, for example, for 3 years worth of mortgage payments or 5 years worth of mortgage payments. So you know at least the mortgage will be paid for a decent period of time. Just that'd be a really useful cash buffer to have behind you. So, next up, if you have a partner and you have kids, that's a different scenario again. So consider everything I've just mentioned. So life cover for joint debts, but there needs to be some extra life cover for the family on top of that. Again, that can be either in the form of a lump sum or a family income benefit or both, right? Then next, it's income protection for you both or for the main earner if things are skewed in that direction. And then again, finally, critical illness cover. So just more life insurance, essentially, if you've got kids. Now, that's if you have a partner and if you have kids. If you're a single parent, maybe slightly different again. Your first priority is life cover for debt payoff, and then provision for your kids until they are at least 18, but I always say go longer than that. Ideally, provision for your kids until they are 21. I'll get to some idea of amounts in a minute, but life cover first, pay off any debt, and provide for your children if you're no longer around to do so. Number one priority. Then income protection insurance so that you can continue to pay your bills and raise your kids if you can't work for whatever reason. Then, if budget allows, critical illness maybe. Might well be unaffordable. Don't discount it automatically, though. Do your homework. Find out the cost first. All right? So probably if you're listening to this, you're going to fall into one of those 4 life stages. Single, in a relationship with no kids, in a relationship but with kids, or a single parent. Probably you fall into one of those 4. If you don't, drop me a line, leave me a comment or whatever. meaningfulmoney.tv/NA2 for New Accumulators, episode 2. So actually, the priorities are not that different. It's just a little bit more of this and more of that. So again, I'm going to put together a little sort of workbook for this, and I have this calculator for you, which is at the show notes, okay, that you can just download, fill in your details, and it'll give you a bit of a steer as to how much insurance you should have. So the first thing is to prioritize your protection according to your life stage, and that kind of assumes that you've got an emergency fund in place and you've sort of dealt with your debt as far as you can. Second thing you need to do is to spend some time thinking through what you would want to happen. Now, this isn't pleasant, right? But if you spend some time to think through the implications of what would happen to your family if you die or if you get sick, well, then you can build a program of insurance which covers each scenario. If you think about it, all protection events, so death, critical illness, or being unable to work, they all really amount to the same thing, which is the loss of your income, all right? Either because you're not around anymore or because you can't earn it due to illness. if it's all about loss of income, you think about that. If you die, your partner now has to continue without your income coming in, maybe with the same level of debt if you haven't provided for that. Or if you're single, your family have got to manage your affairs, tidy things up without your input, without your income, and the debts will still need to be paid while everything is being sorted out after you've gone, which can take a while. So given your specific situation, take some time to think about what you would want to happen. Would you want all your debts paid off? Probably, right? Again, literally, if you're single and all you've got is a mortgage, the house could be sold. But I would want to make sure there is enough cash around to pay the mortgage for a few months while the estate is sorted out. Would you want to provide for your partner, your family, your friend, your roommate, whoever? And if so, what would that look like? Would it be a lump sum that they could use to do whatever they want, to set them up in some way? A tax-free income to support them day to day? How long? How much? Think about these things. If you've got kids, could your partner, if you have one, support them alone? What about if you don't have a partner? Could your parents bring up your kids? How might you want to provide for them to enable them to do that? Would you want to supplement? Would you want to provide a lump sum? Would you want to provide a regular income, tax-free? If so, how much would you want to provide? How long would you want to provide it for? Think about this stuff. Got an example, kind of a worked example coming in a minute to put some sort of kind of real life meat on this for you. But just spend some time thinking, if I died, what would I want to happen? And you'll be able to put it in terms of like, I would want to make sure that there was at least X amount per year coming in until my youngest child is 25, say, right? Or I would want to make sure my mortgage is paid off and another £250,000 in the bank so that there's just no financial worries for my partner. You need to think about it in these kind of terms, okay? So think through what you would want to happen, number 2. Number 3, then, we need to try and insure for the right amount. And this is where it's tricky. Like a lot of this stuff, it's hard to put specifics on it because every situation is different. So if you've got debts, think about what you would want to happen if you, A, die, and B, can't work. Now, if you die, and presuming you would want the debts paid off, your starting point for life insurance needs to be just the amount of debt you've got outstanding. Right? It's like the bare minimum. If you can't work, you've either had a nasty diagnosis, and so critical illness cover would pay out to pay off the debt, ideally, or to provide a buffer of a lump sum so that you could pay the debt for a few years, just to give you time to recover, really. Or if it isn't a serious diagnosis, then it'll probably fall under an income protection scenario. So the regular income would continue, and so you can continue to pay your mortgage, for example. The debt wouldn't get paid off, but you could still service it. So let's say, on a cheery note, you have a nasty car accident which leaves you disabled, but fully in control of your faculties. Well, that might mean you never work again. So in that scenario, what would it mean to you to have a guaranteed rising level of income paid to you every year, every month from an income protection policy? Can you imagine the difference that would make compared to suddenly going to zero income except for state benefits? You get the idea. Providing for dependents is hard to put a number on. You could consider replacing your income with a family income benefit policy. That would be ideal. That would pay out a tax-free income from the date of your death until the end of the term of the policy. You might want to set that term either to retirement age or until your kids are 25 or whatever, right? Choose a term that makes sense to you. But can you imagine that regular income left behind for your dependents if you're no longer around? You could also decide to add a lump sum life insurance policy, which would provide a cash buffer on top of that, which is used to pay off the debt. And then, imagine being debt-free, 100 grand in the bank, and a nice tax-free income coming in from a family income benefit. What a great position to leave your partner in or your kids in. If you have kids, think about what the loss of your provision would mean for them and how insurance then could bridge the gap. So if you've provided a replacement income for your partner, say if you have one, or for like your parents, maybe if they are tasked with raising the kids if you're not around, maybe a lump sum. So maybe you provide a family income benefit to pay for the kids to be brought up. Kids are expensive, but maybe you could consider a lump sum as well. £100,000 or £50,000. It doesn't have to be a massive amount, but imagine, providing that lump sum for your kids, even though you're no longer around, to get on the housing ladder, to buy their first car, to set them through university without a mountain of debt, all that sort of stuff, right? Try and think about these things, and you will be able to put some numbers on it based on your particular situation. Remember, the point is to provide for those left behind, not to make them rich, right? So don't bankrupt yourself taking out massive insurances. God willing, you'll never need to use it anyway. Like all insurance, you pay for it hoping that you'll never need to make a claim. But knowing it's there will provide insane amounts of peace of mind. Really important to make sure you understand your work benefits again. So if your employer provides 4 times your salary as a lump sum, then do factor that in when choosing your insurance program. Remember, obviously, if you change jobs, those benefits will go away. All right. So I said I'd put some numbers on it, but that is actually impossible, though the calculator will help you. All right. I'll do a bit of a worked example in a minute as well. Fourth thing you need to do, 26 minutes in. Fourth thing you need to do is to review things regularly, right? You need to review your insurance program regularly just because life happens. When should you sit down and review things? Here is a nominally helpful but certainly not an exhaustive list. When your relationship status changes, not just on Facebook, right? But when it seriously changes. When you have kids, when you have more kids, when you take on somebody else's kids, when you take on a new debt, or if you pay a debt off, when you change jobs, when you get a significant promotion or pay rise, when you receive a windfall, like an inheritance or a lottery win. When these events occur, make a point of sitting down and revisiting your insurance program. Do you need to tweak it? Do you need to alter it based on that changing circumstance? All right? Don't just set up your insurance and never look at it again. That's a quick way to fail with this whole thing. Number 5, use trusts wisely. It's impossible to talk about insurance without mentioning trusts. Arguably the most misunderstood area of personal finance, with good reason. This is law. This is legal stuff, right? This is why solicitors have jobs. So think of a trust as a box into which you put something. In this case, we're going to call it an insurance policy, but it can be a lump of cash, it can be a property, whatever. But for now, you're putting an insurance policy into this box called a trust. On the box are clear instructions about who can benefit from that policy and when. You give the box to some trusted people to look after. They are called your trustees, and they are responsible for carrying out your wishes as regards what's inside that box. All right? So it stands to reason that all life insurance should be written in trust. If it isn't, the proceeds of the insurance policy will get added to your estate. Now, not only could that potentially cause you an inheritance tax problem if the numbers are big enough, but for most of us, the bigger issue is going to be the time taken to get the money from the policy into the hands of those that need it. If you think about it, if you die, all your bills are still going to need to be met. If your estate is with a solicitor for 6 months or more before it can be distributed, that might be too long. And it would certainly, I think, cost those left behind a lot of grief and worry. So speed of payout is a key benefit of a trust. If a policy is held in trust, it's no longer yours. It's owned by the trust. So once the insurer is satisfied that you're dead, the policy will pay out really quickly. So, but where does it pay out? Does it pay? Does money get paid into a box? Well, no, the box is just a metaphor, right? So what happens is the trustees would have a bank account. They would open a bank account in the name of the trust. The life insurance policy would pay into the bank account, and then your trustees would write a check or send an electronic payment to your partner's bank account, if that's what the trust says where you want the money to go. If you're leaving money for your kids and they are still children, that money can't be paid out to them. You can't pay out trust money to a minor. And so the money would have to be invested. It would have to be looked after by the trustees until your kids grow up. So it's really important to choose your trustees wisely. So yeah, having a trust introduces a layer of complication, but generally the benefits far outweigh the hassles. There is an argument, I think, for holding a life insurance policy on something called a life of another basis. So that means your partner or your family member owns the policy on your life. So let's say it's your partner, they own the policy, but it's still on your life. So if you die, the money pays out to them. dead easy, dead simple. There has to be insurable interest, right? So they have to be in a position that they would suffer financially by your death. But otherwise, it's a pretty good arrangement. They own it. It's on your life. You die, they get the money. The only problem with that is, and it's unlikely, there is a possibility that you might die together, right? And a trust fixes that fairly easily. Most life insurances insurance companies provide trust forms. There might be a few options available to you, and then it's hard to know which one. This is an area for expert advice, I believe. The forms themselves, they are provided as drafts, right? And they say, get this checked by a solicitor before signing. They're meant to be just a draft document. So do get them checked. Worth paying a solicitor for a couple of hours of their time to get it right, okay? Stay tuned for a 5-Minute Friday or two dealing with this in more depth, because it's a big subject, okay? It's a bit of an oxymoron, really. A 5-Minute Friday dealing with it in depth, but we'll see what we can do. Might be a couple of 5-Minute Fridays. Okay, let's just sort of wrap this up with a worked example, all right? If you consider, if you will, Sally and Steve. Sally is a medical sales rep. She earns 75 grand a year, of which about £25,000 is performance related. She has a basic of 50. Steve is a self-employed graphic designer. He's earning 35,000 a year. They have a 280,000 repayment mortgage. He's got 22 years left. They have a couple of car loans totaling 30,000. Their total monthly outgoings are about 4 grand a month before any discretionary spending, so about £5,000 a month in total. Their total take-home pay is £6,600 per month. 4,300 for Sally, 2,300 for Steve. And, good people, they've got an emergency fund of about 35 grand in the bank. So they're in good shape, these people, okay? They have 2 adorable children, Ben and Bella. They are twins, aged 5, and they're planning, hopefully before too long, on having another child. So Sally and Steve sit down and they consider the impact of one or both of them dying. They definitely want to have their mortgage paid off if they die. So they take out a decreasing term life insurance for the full amount of the mortgage. That makes sure that the mortgage is gone if either of them die. And they put that policy in trust. Now, Sally has got death benefits at work. They will pay 4 times her basic salary of 50,000. So that's 200 grand worth of life cover right there. But Sally and Steve decide that that should be sort of extra to their basic requirements. Sally is being courted by another firm. She's not sure what the benefits there are because it's a younger company. It's a startup company. So she's not sure about the benefits. So she's got 200 grand worth of life cover where she is now, but she might not have that in future. So they're going to consider that as icing on the cake. Pretty morbid cake because it only pays out when she dies, but you get the point, right? So 200 grand, but that's extra. So they're going to consider life insurance apart from that. They want to provide a cushion of regular income if either of them were to die. So as she's the main earner, the loss of Sally's income would be more problematic. So they take out a family income benefit on Sally's life for 48 grand a year. That would provide £4,000 a month of income to Steve if Sally were to die. They set the term on that policy for 25 years, which should see the hoped-for third child reach independence. As Steve's income is less crucial, right? They could survive without it, but not, very pleasantly, but they could. They take out an extra lump sum life insurance on Steve's life, again for 25 years, for £250,000. It's about 10 years worth of his take-home pay. Okay? Finally, they both take out income protection until their planned retirement of age 60. I shouldn't have said finally because there's one more thing after this. Next, they both take out income protection until their planned retirement age of 60. Steve opts for cover which pays out after 3 months as he's self-employed, so he hasn't got any sick benefits, but they've got an emergency fund, remember. Sally opts for 1 year deferred cover because her employer will pay her in full for 6 months, and she reckons they could cope for another 6 months because they've got this emergency fund. Okay? So that's how they sort of structure their income protection benefits. And then finally, this time, they take out a critical illness policy for $50,000. That will complement the income protection insurance, provide a buffer in case they get diagnosed with anything seriously nasty. In total, that costs them somewhere in the region of £250 a month. I made that figure up, by the way. I don't know exactly. But they reckon that's money well spent because their disposable income is £1,600 a month. So it uses less than 20% of that. It leaves them enough so that they can continue to save. So that's a bit of a worked example, just so that you can follow me through the thought process, really. But the key message here is that your situation is unique. An example is one thing, but the numbers involved in your specific situation will obviously be very different. So I got 2 resources for you. Firstly, I have an arrangement with the excellent people at LifeSearch. That's the UK's leading online life protection advisory company. So if you go to meaningfulmoney.tv/lifesearch, you'll go straight through to a dedicated page on their site. If you call the number on that page, you'll go through to their senior advisory team. All right, that's the folks with the most experience there. They'll take you through your options. They'll find out enough about you and your situation to make recommendations. They're advisors. They actually physically make recommendations. It's not a comparison site, right? They will recommend what you should take out, different types of policy, the level of cover, the terms. Now, this is an affiliate arrangement, so Meaningful Money will get a cut of any fees and commission that generates for LifeSearch, but it won't cost you any more. Important to know, okay? So again, that link, meaningfulmoney.tv/lifesearch. Secondly, I've created a sort of quick and dirty calculator, which will hopefully give you a bit of a steer about the kinds of insurance you might want to think about taking out. You can then contact LifeSearch with that information if you want, or you can do some comparison site surfing to try and find the best terms for you. It's not perfect, but hopefully it'll be of use. The calculator is linked at the show notes, meaningfulmoney.tv/NA2. Okay, so a couple of things there that we've built for you. In due course, I'm not sure if it'll be ready by the time this goes out. Just there will be a little protection workbook that you can work through as well. So hopefully that'll be useful. Facebook group, right? Any questions about this stuff? Again, the quickest way to get an answer is to join the Facebook group. Obviously, you can leave a question on the comment section of this episode, but the Facebook group is at meaningfulmoney.tv/community. It's a great place to hang out, get your questions answered. You'll learn from the kind of hive mind there. meaningfulmoney.tv/community is a great place to be, lovely environment. Definitely a sort of hassle-free community. Everybody's just out to help each other, which is amazing. So definitely join that. And I hope that's helpful, folks. They've covered a lot of ground. We're nearly 40 minutes in. But I hope it's helpful. Super important for you to deal with this stuff before you start thinking too much about building wealth for the future. Don't skip this step. Put in place what you need to put in place now. Pay for it. All right? It's money well spent. And you won't regret it, I promise. Quick review from Dionysus 2. I knew as soon as I read that what kind of a person you are. Dionysus 2. I've been listening to Pete's podcast for ages now, but I especially enjoyed the chat with Gudruns back in December. So I have finally got around to writing a review. I'm a freelance writer too, so I gained some fresh insights from this podcast. Keep up the good work, Pete, and keep the Rush references coming. Absolutely. That's what I mean. Dionysus. All right, a little bit of hemispheres going on. Cygnus, Dionysus, and Apollo. Oh, just genius. Need to listen to it. Bit of 70s prog rock for you. Thank you, Dionysus, too. If you want to leave me a review, meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes is the place to go to do that. And I think that's about it. I believe so. Anyway, so next time we're going to be talking about when to start investing. I get loads of questions about starting to invest while maybe you're still paying down debt or still at university. It's that sort of stuff. I want to answer those kind of questions. I also want to clearly address the difference between saving and investing, when to make the move from one to another. So that's what we're dealing about next time, okay? When to start investing. Any questions on that or generally, remember you can leave any questions for this season at season14@meaningfulmoney.tv. Send me an email, season14@meaningfulmoney.tv, and it'll form part of the mix for the Q&A show at the end of the season. Okay, that's it. Starting to get into the meat now, aren't we, folks? 40-odd minutes of content goodness here. But thank you so much for listening. Remember, all the links and all that sort of stuff, any comments, meaningfulmoney.tv/NA2 for New Accumulators, episode 2. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you next week.